Hey, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Finding Freedom here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. And guys, before I get into talking about today's show, and I got a great guest lined up and very, very important show. But before I do that, this week has been crazy in a lot of different ways. But one thing that I want to talk about before I get the show started today. Previous guest on this show, guest on episode 277, and Dalton Morrow. And if you remember on that episode 277 of Finding Freedom, Dalton came on the show and talked about how when he was in prison, he overheard his cellmate talking about a planned shooting in the Orlando area. This was prior to the 2016 Orlando nightclub attack, and Dalton was murdered last Saturday. So, just wanted to start today's show and really dedicate this show to Dalton Morrow, to his memory. And I don't know what happened, and I'm not going to talk about it much more than that. You can go back and listen to episode 277 of this show, and listen to what Dalton had to say about what he knew before that attack occurred. Really crazy thing happening. So sorry, kind of hard to transition off of that. But today's show, another really, really important case. And I'm going to ask you guys again today. Last week I asked for it, and ask for it again, for you guys to really get behind this episode. And you did it last week. Do it again this week. I want you to share this episode. I'm going to share some links on the show notes page where I want you to support the sister of my guest today. So Jennifer B Hagan is my guest. She's advocating for her sister, Jessica Linton, who's in prison on some ridiculous charges. Basically, and I'll get into the details, she stood up to the government, and when you do that, most of the time you lose. I'm thankful for you guys listening to my show and listening to all the shows here on Lions of Liberty. We really appreciate it. The work we're doing, it's not easy. And it takes a lot of effort, and sometimes can be pretty draining, pretty taxing work that we do. So those of you who are supporting us, who are patrons of the show, thank you. Those of you who listen and share the show, thank you. And if you want to, take a step up, take a step forward, and start to back us a little bit more, and go on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty and join there to get some awesome incentives, bonus podcast, early podcast releases, early video viewing releases, all that stuff. Having Dave Smith on the show next week. And if you are in the Lions of Liberty Pride, you're going to be able to hear that episode with Dave Smith, recording with him on Tuesday night. So you'll be able to hear that episode, watch it live in the Lions of Liberty Pride Facebook group on Tuesday night, and it won't drop to the public until Thursday. So go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty and join today. And without saying,
we are born free, and we will die free. The time in between, though, that's complicated. In that time, governments, institutions, and our egos will limit our ability to find true freedom in this life. These are real stories of real people overcoming the odds, persevering in justice, and unlocking their potential. Welcome to Finding Freedom. Here's your host, John Odermatt.
On today's episode of Finding Freedom, I am joined by Jennifer Hagan. Jennifer's sister, Jessica Linton, was charged with 24 counts of conspiracy and healthcare fraud, which resulted in an 11-year prison sentence. Throughout this entire case, she has maintained her innocence. There were 25 other employees at the the place where she was working that was raided by the FBI, called Global Pharmacy. And a lot of those other employees were probably a little maybe coerced as it goes into plea deals. Jessica is now, as a result of not pleading and taking it to trial, she was convicted and is now separated from her family, and her husband is now raising their 9-year-old daughter as a single dad. So Jennifer is here to tell Jessica's story. I will do my best to not mess that up again. And thank you for coming on the show, Jennifer.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start out with a little bit of background on this case. And obviously, as being Jessica's sister, you probably know her as good or better than anyone else out there. So maybe you could start up by talking about growing up with her, what she's like, the type of person who she is.
Well, she's actually a year and a half younger than me, but you wouldn't really know it because she's the responsible one for the most part, I have to admit. She's the one that always remembers everybody's birthday and has me sign the cards, and just is the type of person that takes care of everything and everyone. And that has followed her from childhood all the way up. A lot of people describe her as the most morally correct person that they know. She's a big time rule follower. She's the one that you want in your business, making sure that things are being compliant and rules are being followed. Jessica's big on that. She's also very strong in her faith. She was diagnosed with diabetes, type 1 diabetes, at the age of 9, and was very involved with the American Diabetes Association growing up. And then as an adult, she also got diagnosed with celiac disease, but she has always been very good at managing both of those. It comes with a lot of challenges and causes some other issues, but she's just one of those people that's just on top of things. So she was very involved with Girl Scouts, her church, etc. Because of her diabetes, she got into healthcare at an early age. She got a job selling diabetic supplies. She knew all about it. She was one of the first people here in Savannah, Georgia, where she grew up, that got on the pump and knew all about it, the pros and cons, etc. So when she was working with the diabetic supplies, her job got transferred her to Clearwater, Florida. So she moved to Clearwater, Florida with her family, and she started working for CCS Medical, and she loved it. But they started to lay off people. Some of the insurance companies weren't using them anymore, and they needed less salespeople, that sort of thing. So they started to lay off people, and one of her coworkers was laid off and decided to start his own pharmacy. It's a compounding pharmacy, Global. His name is Jeremy Adams. And
what does that mean? You said compounding pharmacy. I don't know anything about pharmacies. Right? So what does that mean?
And I'm actually just learning myself since I had not been in the field, but basically the medications, they are compounded with certain I would not be the right person to ask about that. And Jessica, one of the things that I wish she could explain to people is all of this stuff, because even though she didn't come from a pharmaceutical background, she didn't have a degree, she educated herself on a lot of this because she had a passion for it. Now, mostly she worked with the customers and the clients and customer service. She actually turned down a few positions that would have been more pay, but she wouldn't get to work directly with the customers. So she actually had turned them down. But anyway, she got the job at Global. She left CCS to avoid getting laid off and took the job there. The compounding pharmacy, Global, was started up in Alabama, but Jessica lived in Clearwater, so she was asked to run the call center in Clearwater. So she did that, and she loved it. But one day she came to work, and the FBI raided her work and informed her that her bosses were committing healthcare fraud at a very large level. This was disappointing to her for multiple reasons. It was a shock that she was associated with it, but also because she trusted these people and just never knew that was happening. So immediately she started helping the FBI.
Well, just like to take a pause there.
Yeah.
So the FBI raided ahead of that. Did she have any inclination, or did she at all ever think that maybe something illegal was happening? Or
so she did not think that anything illegal was happening because it was a startup company, and she knew that they were learning. After audits, they would get notified that, okay, this wasn't done correctly, you need to do this instead, etc. So there were, she did say that there were a couple red flags while she was there of things that she was like, I just want to double check on this. And each time she checked on things, she was told that it had already gone through their compliance officer, their attorney on staff, and all of the pharmacists. So everything that it got funneled down from corporate was already gone through all of those things. So she was told. Right. And of course, her not having a pharmaceutical degree of any sort, obviously she trusted that several pharmacists, doctors that were signing. I mean, she didn't know that doctors apparently were being paid off for scripts. Pharmacists apparently were forging doctors' signatures. There was all of this going on that she would have had no way of knowing. And then anything that did happen that she was told wasn't correct, she was very quick to fix it, let everybody know. I'll give you a quick example. They were told that they weren't supposed to send supplies to a certain state because they weren't licensed in that state. When she found that out, she was very upset and said, you need to send me a list right now of every state that we are licensed in so that I can let everybody know. And as soon as they sent it, she printed it out, put it in everybody's cubicle. She was a big time rule follower and wanted to make sure everything was compliant. So there were a few, to answer your question, there were a few little things here and there, but when she asked on it, she was reassured that it had already gone through everybody.
So when the FBI raid happened, obviously, I mean, I've never been in a place where the FBI would raid, but I would be completely freaked out if
Yes.
so what was her immediate reaction? Did she share? What did she share with you, like right at the time? Do you remember?
She actually did not share immediately. She was so frightened. And Jessica, again, like I said, she was always the type that took care of everything, didn't want anyone to worry, didn't want anyone upset. Obviously her immediate family knew, but she didn't really know exactly what was going on because they didn't tell her much. They just asked questions. So never at any point did they say, you were doing this wrong, or they were doing this wrong, anything like that. It was a simple ask questions, but she did say that it was very scary because they showed up with, the guns and started interrogating everybody. She actually was at home, hadn't come in yet because her schedule allowed her to come in, I think at 10 a.m. And I think they had come in maybe an hour early. So when they called and said that they were there, she actually went in early to see what she could do to help.
So, yeah, you said that she cooperated with the FBI. How long did this cooperation go on for? And
over 3 years.
Really?
Yes. So they asked her to stay in contact with Jeremy and, basically let them know, almost as if she was an informant. They kept asking her for different.
So she continued to work. Did the place stay open? She continued to work?
No. Okay. But she continued to, ask, keep in touch with Jeremy and ask him questions. But
Jeremy was the founder of the company, owner. Yeah.
Yes, the founder. And they kept asking for text messages from her phone, and she would look them up and give them. But she finally was like, just take my phone. Do you want to mirror it? And here's my computer. Just take what you want. She had nothing to hide. And they mostly needed her to show them how the system worked, how they did billing, all of those things, to walk them through it. And she said one of the things that she found odd was that they kept saying that they only cared about what they did in the beginning, what she did and what they did in the beginning, not what they're doing now, but what they did, I guess, in the beginning, starting up. But again, they didn't tell her why. They didn't tell her much. They just asked questions and she answered. One of the things, though, that she didn't like is that they would say things like, well, don't you think this could have blah, blah, blah? And she would say, well, I never thought of it that way, but I guess. Well, then when they turned in the transcripts, they said that she said it was done, blah, 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 the way that they had said, couldn't it be?
So they would ask these leading questions,
right,
and sort of say that you should think this. And then when she would say, oh, I could see how you would think that way, then they would, say
that was how it was done. And so they kind of twisted her words. I know that when she went in, she drove to Alabama twice at her own expense to help them. And one of the times that she went, before she walked into the room for the interrogation, the FBI agent outside of the door said, now, when you go in there, you answer their questions, but you're not allowed to say, I did such and such because I was told to. You're not allowed to say that anyone told you to do that, that was what you were told to do. So, and she didn't know, and she didn't have, at that time, she didn't think she needed a lawyer. She did get a court-appointed lawyer at one time, but that did not last very long because that lawyer told her that she should just sign the plea deal and just look at it as saying you knowingly and willingly did your job, which she said that's not a crime. So I didn't knowingly and willingly commit healthcare fraud, so I'm not going to sign a false document.
So this FBI, I guess, information gathering / interrogation went on for 3 years total, right?
I think a little bit over 3 years, but approximately about that time. It was several years.
So at what point did she start thinking, I think that they're coming after me?
When they made the decision to indict everyone, and they told her that they wanted her to sign a plea deal. They wanted her to sign a document stating that she knowingly and willingly committed healthcare fraud. When they asked her to do that, she refused because she said that would be, a lie. I'm not going to do that. And they said, well, if you don't, then we're going to tack on a whole bunch of other charges that we're going to throw at you, and you're going to go to jail for a very long time. But for Jessica, that worked for a lot of the people. It would have worked for me. I'm not going to lie. That would have been scary if they, there were a lot of single moms, people that didn't have money for a lawyer, and for someone to say, if you don't sign this, we're going to put you away in jail.
So was there any penalty for them? You're just signing it. Was there any?
Yes. I think there were some estimated, I'll be completely honest with you. They changed it up so much, and Jessica, she's not even sure exactly what it was. At one point we thought we heard 3 months. Another point we thought we heard 3 years. It wasn't for Jessica. Like I said, it wasn't about what they were offering. Right. Even if they offered no jail time at all, for Jessica, she loved the healthcare field. She loved her job. And most importantly, morally, she just refused to sign a false document. That's what it was for her. So the scare tactic worked on pretty much everyone, guilty or not guilty, but it did not work on Jessica. She just was not going to sign that. So we, as a family, kind of all pitched in, refinanced our houses, et cetera, to get enough money to pay for a good federal attorney. So we did that, and we got her a real attorney who knew that going against the government, your chances are so slim, and was upfront, with Jessica with that. And I mean, you can Google and see that, how many people don't take the plea deal. It is such a minuscule amount, a percentage, and of that percentage, how many actually win? It's such a minuscule amount. However, they didn't have any evidence. So Jessica believed in the system and believed that the truth would prevail. And, she just wasn't willing to sign it. So she took it to court. And they were not happy about that.
Well, I mean, you say she believed the system, and most people believe the system until they hear about a case like this. And you say there was no evidence. How can someone be convicted of no evidence? They don't need evidence in order to convict, because they have all the people who admitted, who she was working with, they admitted healthcare fraud, and they can just point to that. So
Right.
It really, it's incredible. You can be totally, it's scary. It's very scary. You can be totally innocent, and they can come after you and put you away. It's
people that have heard Jessica's story. I had told a pharmacist Jessica's story, and when they heard, they said, "I'm going into work tomorrow and I'm quitting my job." And I said, "Well, I'm not trying to get you to quit your job. I'm just telling you." She's like, "You don't understand. What happened to your sister could literally happen to anyone." Jessica still to this day does not even know what she did wrong. The things that they're throwing out there, they're saying, well, because she did automatic refills. The government themselves sends automatic refills. My husband's a veteran, and he keeps calling the VA and saying, "I already get these prescriptions from my doctor. You can stop sending them." And they keep sending them, over and over. I mean, every doctor and pharmacist that I've talked to, all the things that they were telling Jessica is wrong. That's, procedure. So she still is unsure as to what she particularly did wrong, but obviously she recognizes that whatever she was doing led to this fraud. However, the what she was supposed to be convicted of is whether or not she knowingly and willingly did conspiracy to fraud, all of those things. And then they ended up, because she took it to trial, they ended up throwing all those other charges on her.
What did the owner of the company end up doing?
How much time?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because I'll start out by telling you what he was supposed to get was 10 years. Now, he ended up getting 14, and I don't know why. I can only speculate that either because he didn't get up and testify against Jessica, I think he probably just couldn't, with or because he was sentenced right after Jessica. And with Jessica getting 11 years, I think probably the judge just could not give, her the most, knowing that, she didn't benefit financially. As her husband says it well. He says, just follow the money. When I say, even though we knew that the chances were slim, when I say they had nothing against her, they had nothing. In fact, their witnesses that they brought in actually only helped Jessica's case. They brought in a pharmacist and asked, did you tell Jessica to do this? And the pharmacist said, yes, I did. I told her to do that. So even their own witnesses just helped her case.
She's not a pharmacist. I mean, so she's going based off the pharmacist.
Yeah. And another one was asked, was Jessica at these, conspiracy meetings, however they worded it. And they said no. And they said, well, was she invited? Would she have been invited? And they said no. Did she get to enjoy the private jets? Did she get one of the watches? Did she get any of these benefits? No. Mm-mm. But it's trial penalty and all of those things. One of the most interesting things that I will say about the trial that I found the most disappointing was at sentencing. The judge said to the prosecution, "So let me get this straight so that I understand. You're saying that Jessica helped you all of those years, helped you get a case, helped you. But the only reason that you're saying 11 years is because she wouldn't sign that plea deal. Is that correct?" And they said, "Yes, that is correct."
Wow. The judge actually said that.
The prosecution said, "Yes, that is correct."
But the judge asked that question. Wow, that's
Yes.
incredible.
Yeah. And I take that as, our country was founded on, telling the truth in court. You're supposed to, on oath. And so basically, because she refused to lie under oath and because she exercised her right to a trial, she was punished. And she would have been rewarded if she would have given up her right to a trial and just lied under oath. They would have rewarded her. So I just don't think that's right.
Yeah, it's definitely not right. That's
Yeah.
it's an upside down system that we have in this. I mean, this case is not a better example than how upside down it is than Jessica's case. So just to talk a little bit about, because oftentimes when I have people on the show, it's individuals who've been through the system, have been incarcerated themselves, and they're coming to tell the story. So whenever I have family members on, I like to get the family members' perspective, and maybe you can share, Jessica's husband's perspective as well, and other family members. But oops, hold on, let me get a phone call here. Decline. Okay. So I guess maybe if you can kind of talk about the evolution. So how is the family reacting to this? Is everyone supportive of Jessica's decisions? And I guess a second part of that question would be, have people's views of the criminal justice system changed in the family because of this?
Well, that would be an understatement to say. One of the things that we realize is that once your eyes are open to this, they can never be shut again. And it's mind-blowing, the things that we have seen, the things that we have learned about how it works. It's mind-blowing. It's something that unless you have gone through it or have a family member or a close friend that's gone through it, you just would never know. Of course, I've talked to some people that you normally have on your show that have gotten out, and I'll tell them things that are going on with Jessica in prison right now, and they are not surprised at all. Whereas you could tell people that have never, been in prison or know someone in prison, and they would say, "No way, it can't be the case." As for your first question, as disappointing and upsetting as it is, both of her daughters, and her husband stand by her decision. Jessica instilled in them and everyone around her, the importance of standing strong in your faith, standing strong in your beliefs, and that it's better to basically be punished than to, lower your beliefs and your faith and your morals. So they are proud of her. She's been called a modern day Paul by a lot of people that have heard her story. She's been called a hero by a lot of people that have never met her. She's already touched so many people's lives in and out of prison. So they definitely stand with her. Of course, Jessica is the type of person who doesn't really get upset very easily. She's very low maintenance. We were not worried about her going into prison as much as we were worried about her husband and her, of course, her youngest daughter and her oldest daughter, both of which have been very affected negatively. Her oldest daughter was in school at Palm Beach Atlantic to go into nursing. And when this happened, it it really, besides kind of, affecting her grades and just her concentration, it really put a bad taste in her mouth. Being involved in the healthcare industry in any way, it's scary what could happen. So she actually completely changed her major, moved back up here to Savannah to be with Jessica and my parents, and have that support. Her youngest daughter, I mean, she's 9 now, and it's hard to even understand and grasp. She's doing the best she can, but I mean, she has night terrors now. And then of course her husband, I mean, it wasn't like, that her husband was already used to doing everything on his own. As a couple, they split the responsibilities. Jessica was actually more of the breadwinner. And so basically financially, and just everything from taking Lily to school and managing her Girl Scouts and all of those things, that's all put on her husband, besides not being able to have, his spouse right there. He's angry, obviously, at the system. He's definitely all about educating people now, and so are we, because it's something, like I said, you just don't know until it happens to you.
How's Jessica doing in prison? How are her spirits?
So her spirits are good. Like I was saying, we weren't worried about Jessica at first. We were like, if anybody can handle it, it's her. That quickly changed to where getting justice for her, getting this overturned, is not even on our radar right now, because medically she is not doing well at all. From day one, she got in at Mariana, the satellite camp, and they had no record of her being a diabetic and celiac, which we don't understand why. Jessica has been in prison now for, I believe, almost 7 weeks, and has yet to get a gluten-free diet. And she cannot consume gluten because of her celiac disease. It not only affects her intestinal region and all of that, inflammation, all of that, those side effects, but it negatively affects her diabetes as well, when she is not getting the proper meals for that. She's also consistently not getting medical attention that she needs. It's like, I don't think that they can handle it. I don't know if they just don't get a lot of type 1 diabetics, especially type 1 diabetics mixed with the celiac. But it's almost as if they don't understand all the components that, like, if, for instance, if her site expires or she runs out of her test strips, which happens all the time there, that causes her pump not to work because it's not being calibrated correctly. So all of those things, she'll wake up in the morning and she'll tell the medical staff, hey, don't forget, my my site expires today at 1 p.m. and it'll be 8:30 at night, and they still haven't come. And so it causes her blood sugar will go up and down. So we reached out to several senators, congressmen, et cetera. And we did have Senator Rubio's office. They sent Jessica a privacy agreement because they were going to look into all of this for us. And as soon as Jessica signed the privacy agreement, they cut off her communication and they told her to pack her stuff, and they shipped her out of there very quickly. There were 2 other women that needed to go to, they were sending her to Carswell, which is in Texas. It's the only medical facility, women's medical facility in the nation. And they were sending her there. There were 2 other women at Mariana that needed to go to Carswell more than Jessica. And she was actually worried that she was going to get transferred there sooner than later because of them, but they didn't get sent. They just got Jessica out of there as quick as possible. They sent her first to Tallahassee and then to Oklahoma, and then she was supposed to go to Carswell from there, but she's actually going to be shipped back to Mariana. Something I guess, is going on at Carswell, because everyone that was supposed to get transferred there from Oklahoma is now being transferred back to their original place. But the transfer process was horrible for her. She literally thought she was going to die several times by being put in a cell, and her banging and screaming on the doors for 2 hours, needing medical attention. She hadn't eaten anything all day. And they ended up finally coming late that night and giving her 2 apples, which, as a diabetic, that is not enough, for her blood sugars, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to consistently call everyone and anyone to complain, and something will be done a lot of the times, but it will last less than 24 hours. For instance, they'll say, okay, we're going to get you on a gluten-free diet, but then 24 hours later, they're giving her the meals with the gluten that she can't eat again. So it's obviously our only hope is the compassionate release. We're being told we have a 1 in a million chance for that, but we're gonna go for that chance over and over, and hopefully get her home to her doctors and on home confinement until we can get this thing overturned. And myself and her family and friends aren't going to stop until it does.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about the prison system and with diets and medical attention. I mean, probably, I mean, just to be honest, it's probably more so not that they're not built for it. It's that the people that work there just don't care.
Right. And
they think, I'm not, this isn't my job. I don't need to do this. So they just don't give a crap.
Mm-hmm. Some of the remarks from the guards, prove that they would bring her food, and when she had to turn it away, because each of her meals, all in quarantine, were brought in to-go boxes with 2 pieces of bread smashed on it. So the meal is, the whole thing, even if it was gluten-free, was completely tainted by the bread. It's contaminated. So when she would have to turn it down, the guard would roll his eyes at her, and her roommate said, "She can't help it. She has celiac disease." And the guard said, "Well, then you shouldn't be in prison." And, they have that attitude. Or, the U.S. Marshals or whoever it was that was transferring her, when they said, we only have bologna sandwiches for dinner, and she said, I can't have that. They said, "Well, then you're out of luck." There's not any sort of, let's try to, help this diabetic and celiac to at least get something in their system, peanut butter, something. Instead, it's exactly what you said. They're like, well, oh, well, shouldn't be in here. Too bad.
So for her to get compassionate release, who does that need to go through? Is that, could the judge grant that?
That is the one person that has all the power to give her the compassionate release, and that is her judge from the sentencing. And unfortunately, what we have been told is that the people that have an actual chance of getting compassionate release are those that are at the very end of their sentence. They've served, like 90% of their sentence. Her 11-year sentence just started. So we've been told it would be a miracle if she gets it. But at the same time, trusting that there are people out there that care, our point is, well, they can't handle her medical needs. And it's not just one facility. She's now in the 3rd facility since entering, and not one of them, not one, even ones that have a nurse that is nice. There was a nurse at Oklahoma, give her a shout out. Nurse Hicks is what Jessica said, who saved her life. This one nurse came in, and she had no idea that the previous nurse on duty had completely neglected Jessica, didn't give her the stuff. And this nurse came late at night, stayed way past her shift to save Jessica's life. So there are a few people like that. However, that those people, they're not on duty 24/7. So as soon as they leave, it's back to her not getting the medical or the food that she needs. So all in all, I'm telling you, they cannot provide for her medically. Even in Carswell, where they were going to send her, we have been told there are lots of deaths occurring there right now. There was one just even the other day. We have been told that the doctors there have ankle bracelets themselves. Not that they aren't qualified, but they're not, they're inmates themselves. So do they really care? Are they going to take it seriously? What was their license revoked? Is that, you know what I mean? So we just basically were told that no matter where she is, it's the same.
So what can my listeners do, if anything, to help out, to help spread the word, to contact senators or Congress people? What can they do?
So let me tell you that the senators that we have met with, I am going to say that they have been very nice, very accommodating and patient. They have been, getting hit up already with lots of letters from Jessica's friends, her family, etc. However, they're only able to be a liaison to the BOP. So they would go to the BOP and say, hey, this is what we have heard. The BOP would then write back and say, oh, that's not true. Jessica's getting great medical attention and she's being offered gluten-free options with every meal. And even though the senators know that they're lying, because that has not happened at all, there's nothing that they can do. They're not over the BOP. That would be, they said, to probably turn our attention towards Department of Justice. So I guess writing letters instead to the Department of Justice or the president, even just someone that has some power. Maybe, the attention, the media, the exposure. I have been told by everyone that even though it can make it hard for Jessica in there because they do retaliate, that is a thing. However, they are saying that is what our best chances is to continue advocating and to continue to be loud and be heard, because that puts pressure on people to, hopefully they just get tired of hearing from us and they don't want the attention. So hopefully they'll let her out on compassionate release and, get her the medical attention that she needs.
Yeah, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, is what they say. So if you can get loud enough and get enough attention, I think that's the right path. And,
right.
We really don't know what Joe Biden will do when it comes to clemencies and things of that nature, because he's done nothing yet. So there was hope at the beginning when he was elected that he would at least continue what his two predecessors were doing, but nothing from that yet. Anything else? Is there a petition that my audience can sign? Or
we have not started the petition yet. That is something on our to-do list, our radar. But at the moment, we have been completely slammed with just getting her medical need to where it's like, I personally am doing it full time. I mean, I'm on the phone constantly. I'm trying to get it out there, share the video that we, I'll
yes,
the link. That's an interview that we had as soon as this happened with Jessica. Before she went in, I knew that this was a story that needed to be told. So I had her interviewed. The full interview is about 37 minutes. That hasn't been released to the public. Nobody wants to sit there for 37 minutes. So we made a highlight.
Some people do.
Some people might, yeah. But we're kind of holding on to it, hoping that, somebody will want to pick it up and do a story. And we have had a few people reach out, thank you for being willing to share this. But that highlight video is a great one to share. It's already got, I think, 30,000 views. So the more we share it, the more you get those views up, the more attention it's going to get, and hopefully to the right people. I know that there's some organizations in place, and a lot of them have rules like the Innocence Project. I want to say they only do criminal, not white collar. But again, the louder we are, hopefully it'll get attention from the right people. So I would say, sharing her story, sharing the video. And I will also interject that in 2 days, this Thursday is Jessica's birthday. This is hard for us because we actually think she's already back in transit to Mariana. So we can't hear from her when she is there. So I don't know if we'll even be able to tell her happy birthday on the phone or email or anything. But what she has asked for her birthday is for people to do a random act of kindness in honor of her, and to wear the Justice for Jessica shirts for anybody that's gotten them. We've been selling these for just $10 online on our website, the justiceforjessicalinton.com. And, we're just going to take some pictures of people wearing them, just showing their support, and hopefully send them to her whenever she gets to whatever facility she's going to next.
Well, this will air after Jessica's birthday, but I'm going to ask my audience to do that random act of kindness, to visit justiceforjessicalinton.com. And I'll link to that on the show notes page as well, to watch the video and share the video, and also share this podcast.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask everyone to do that. I mean, if you've listened to this long in the podcast, then obviously you're relating and you have some compassion for what's going on here. So please, if you're not driving, stop what you're doing and do that right now. I'll just ask you, Jennifer, if there's anything else that I haven't asked you about, or anything else you want to talk about with regards to Jessica's case. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I think you covered it for the most part. I will say that one of the things that we have learned, and we've been told consistently, is that Jessica is in the 2 to 3% of people in prison that have people on the outside advocating for them, sending up prayers and love and concern, and that's very sad to hear. It's sad to know that there's people in there that don't have any money in their commissary, that don't have anybody writing letters to them. So one of the things that I would say is to, keep Jessica in your prayers and in your mind as she tries to touch as many of those people as she can. And she's doing a great job so far. We've been told that everybody knows who she is. And the ones that get out and met her, had the privilege to meet her, have gotten out and are advocating now for her as well. I would also say too, if there's one thing I've learned, is not to judge, because I'm meeting so many people that have been in the same situation. I'm meeting people that have gotten put in jail for the craziest things, things that anyone could be put in jail for. And it is so scary to know that you're not safe from that if you basically have a job that consists of anything where you have to make decisions that you're relying on, your bosses and the people ahead of you to be telling you the truth. It's scary. So I'm learning that there are a lot of innocent people in there, and definitely want to not judge and give them all, benefit of the doubt till we know otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think that, I always talk about a book written by Harvey Silverglate called 3 Felonies a Day. And the average person commits 3 felonies a day without knowing it. So
I've heard that. I'm probably one of them. I swear,
Well, I mean, yeah, like, for example, like in a lot of places, using your neighbor's or a business's Wi-Fi without actually doing it illegally, that's a felony. So it's and even with that, like in your sister's case, doing things the right way, think you're doing everything the right way, even cooperating with the FBI, and then still getting sentenced to prison is just absolutely insane. So I'll just once again encourage my audience to share Jessica's story, share this podcast, and I'll link to everything on the show notes page. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yes, thanks so much.
All right, so that'll cut right there. So this is going to air a week from Thursday. So video, audio, everything.
And is it
Yeah.
on Facebook on the Lions for Liberty or what page?
Well,
Is it?
it'll be on YouTube, the
Okay.
video, and
Okay.
we'll share it on the Facebook page, and then the podcast. I mean, that the audio goes out. There's thousands of you can listen to podcasts on anything, so it'll go everywhere.
Well, definitely send me, links to everything. If there's one thing that we are good at, myself and her supporters are, sharing this stuff. I know Christy LeShober had us on her show the other day, and it immediately got more views than like all of her other videos because our people are really actively sharing it and everything. So send me all the links so that we can share it with everyone.
Yeah, well, what we also do with the video is we take like 1-minute clips,
Okay.
And we'll put them on Twitter and on Facebook, so you can share those as well. But
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we're, the Justice for Jessica, we have that everywhere. I'm stuck at like Twitter and LinkedIn, but we have it on those, the Justice for Jessica. I think we're trying to get a TikTok. I mean, we have Justice for Jessica everywhere. So if you do put it on something, you can always tag her on those. Now we don't have a YouTube yet, but I do need to get one. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because the video's on Vimeo. Okay.
Yeah, and because our web designer, I even asked him the other day about putting it on YouTube, and I can't remember what he said, why he just doesn't, something about YouTube. And I know that probably that we'll have as much trouble as we did already getting blocked on Facebook from the video. I tried to do a boost, and it said that it contained sensitive social issues that could influence people's opinion and the way they vote. So
Facebook
So I was finally able to boost it, but it took about 3 weeks and a whole bunch of I had to send in my driver's license and a mail thing. He said, don't be surprised if you violate the YouTube policy, blah, 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 because who you're talking against.
That's fair. I mean, for example, Lions of Liberty, we're demonetized on YouTube. So, I mean, they still let us post videos, but we can't make any money. And we're just talking about stuff like this. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you, I get scared every time I talk about this out loud because I've seen some crazy, scary stuff. I mean, even in the courtroom, this isn't even that scary, but in the courtroom, Jessica was tried with another person, which again, I'm not even going to go into that because that's not even okay. But his sister was supposed to testify on his behalf. And I think she's a pharmacist. And the day she was supposed to show up, she didn't show up, and she wouldn't answer the phone from her parents, her brother, nothing. And apparently the FBI had gotten a hold of her, and I don't know what they told her. Obviously, maybe that they were going to take her license or something, but they scared her out of testifying for her own brother. And that, of course, again, that has nothing to do with death, but one of my best friends, it's scary. Her brother was with the GBI and he committed suicide.
Oh, geez.
And when she tried to look into it and was warned several times to back off, and her house has been broken into several times with blood put all over her walls. And then her other brother, who wouldn't stop looking into it, also just fell down the stairs and died the other day.
What?
Yes. So she keeps telling me to shut my mouth and not do this, but this is like my calling right now, and I have to.
That's your sister. I mean, you know what?
Sister. And it's crazy, man. The whole thing is crazy. You know, what's funny is that anyone that knows her, I'm just here talking about her, but I never knew, because she lives in Clearwater, I never knew how much support she has. And every person in her life is like, Jessica's the last person on the planet that you would ever think. So it's definitely scary, but thank you again. Yeah, send me whatever links and we'll share and promote and all that good stuff.
Yeah, will do. Well, thanks for your time, and I'll do the best I can to get this blasted out there.
Perfect.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. You too.
Hope you all enjoyed that interview on Finding Freedom. Another awesome guest. And hopefully you guys also have subscribed to the Lions of Liberty podcast, and you're getting all 3 of our unique shows in your little listening device delivered to your ears. If you haven't, please do that. Just go to your app, you know how to do it, and subscribe. You can also leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment. We would prefer if you did it on Apple Podcasts, but anywhere you can on the internet, please leave us a positive comment. Also, if you want to support us, we would love that too. Please go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. You can support us for as little as a couple bucks, or if you get in at a higher level, you get merchandise and access to us, and all the way up to you can advertise on the show or get to even produce a show. So check it all out, patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. And if you haven't checked it out yet, please consider checking out the Lions of Liberty store, where we have some awesome t-shirts. We have a Taxation is Death t-shirt with an awesome design. We have a Wax On, Tax Off t-shirt. And we have our brand new design, our Hands Up, Don't Nuke t-shirt. I'm not going to lie to you. It is our best t-shirt we've ever made. So go to lionsofliberty.store. You need to buy this t-shirt. Hands Up, Don't Nuke. It has a really dorky looking redneck guy with his hands up. Hands Up, Don't Nuke in big letters with the bombs pointed at him. It is phenomenal. You need this shirt at lionsofliberty.store. And if you're in the Pride, you get a discount on anything you buy in the store. So you do both of those things and you win. That's all I got, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.